This Sekiro build is the next in our Elden Ring themed builds. I've been working on this one for a while. I was trying to figure out a way to marry the aggressive gameplay style of Sekiro with Elden Ring while still making a fun build, and then it hit me, wakizashi. Let me know in the comments your idea for the next themed build and I'll see if I can make it work. So breaking down this build, now I have, as I mentioned, been tinkering with like a Sekiro, like wolf sort of a build for a while, and I knew it was going to use katanas, and I just couldn't figure out what I was going to do about like parrying to try and get that aggressive style from Sekiro. But the wakizashi dagger, well, technically a dagger, it is basically a katana, solves this issue. So what I mean by this being a katana is that it actually acts as a katana if you read the item description, and when you have one of these and a katana in your other hand, you will do the full dual wielding combos of a katana as if it is acting as a katana. Now you can actually put the parry Ash of War on this as well, so it acts as if you've got that like parrying aggressive style from Sekiro while also acting as a katana, so you can get some good dual wielding combos off with that. And then also, you know, you could just two-hand the katana if you wanted to, but it gives you that kind of potential there. Now unfortunately this shadow only dies once, but we've got the basic of the kit set up here by having a katana in one hand and the wakizashi with the parry in the other. And I am using the Nagakiba here primarily because it is the longest reach of the katanas. It's also really probably the best katana for a two-handed setup for those scenarios where you won't have the wakizashi. Do you know that I practiced how to say that before I started this because I'm so bad at words, as you guys know? Anyway, so yeah, for those scenarios where you're going to two-hand the Nagakiba because you get the most value for that because of its longer reach and its better profile in that regard. So that's the general setup. Now I am also using the Highland axe to simulate that like axe attachment for the wolf's like hand that he has, and also on that I've put the flames of Redmane for that sort of like fire attachment thing that he does, that little like puff of like fire that can come out. So getting some of that, you know, themeness from the axe attachment kind of with the axe and the flames, but for the most part it's really just focusing on the katana and the wakizashi in the offhand. So speaking of those Ash of Wars, now we won't really cover the wakizashi parry because we've already touched on that itself, but essentially you'll use that as a parry. You can block attacks with this as well if you do time it right, like if you time it for a block but not for a parry, but it still won't block all of the damage that comes towards you. On the katana itself, I'm just putting unsheath on this because it's just really good. Like, I don't know how else to describe unsheath. It's just a extremely valuable Ash of War that does heaps of damage, especially the heavy, like the horizontal slash. It does heaps of stagger damage, so you could potentially stagger enemies to follow up with critical hits with this. I've actually made this a keen Ash of War as well because we're primarily stacking dexterity here. So, and the Highland axe, as mentioned, we've got the flames of Redmane, which will give you that like puff of flame in front of you to simulate that sort of an action, which you probably won't use heaps, like, to be honest. I'm just trying to figure out how we can include as much of the wolf's kit from Sekiro here, honestly. For the most part, you're really just going to be using the katana and the wakizashi, and then when you're not using the wakizashi, you'll two-hand the katana, but you've just got that extra option there, you know, for a bit of fun and flavor. Your primary attribute is going to be dexterity. You want to maximize that and push that as far as possible. Then a little bit of strength, it will get you a little bit of extra value in terms of your damage, but for the most part, after dex, you're really going to be putting points into vigor and endurance. Endurance for having a good amount of stamina for these attacks that you're getting off, as well as vigor, so you can actually take some of that brunt of damage coming towards you, and then a little bit of mind for that unsheath and the other Ash of Wars that we're using. But for the most part, dex is the primary, so maxing out your dex and then following up with these secondary stats after that. For the gear, the main set that I'm wearing is the white reed set, which comes from the Spirit Caller cave in the Mountaintops of Giants area of the game. I'm wearing basically all of that except for the helmet, as we're not wearing a helmet because the wolf doesn't really wear a helmet. I am wearing Melina's gauntlet, however, to simulate that sort of like, you know, arm that the wolf has. So you've got that sort of like arm attachment sort of a setup, which you can get from Enya after you have beaten Melina, the Blade of Mikola. The Highland axe comes from Stormvale Castle. You've probably already got it, to be honest. It's a super easy pickup. The Nagakiba comes from Hunter Yuri, or the Bloody Finger Hunter Yuri, which you'll first come across in Limgrave, and then, you know, you can follow his storyline to wherever it goes. But if you kill him, you'll get this weapon, or if you complete his storyline, you'll get it as well, if you haven't already picked that up. The wakizashi is found in Jail Cave in Caelid. You will need some keys in order to open the door to get in there, but once you're in there, it is found in there. And now, the parry Ash of War to put on the wakizashi comes from Knight Burnell. He does start at the War Master Shack near Storm Hill, but he will move to the Volcano Manor at a certain point in the story, so you can go there and you'll have to complete a little bit of their storyline to get access to his inventory if you want to purchase the Parry Ash of War from him if you don't already have it. And that's most of the kit. I am actually using the fan daggers, or just like daggers in general, like to throw things at enemies from range, because that is one of the other attachments that you can get, that little like range like dagger throw that you've got for the wolf. And my talismans here is the Dragon Great Shield Crest to increase my physical resistance, because we're not wearing a helmet, and not really the best like armor for taking damage, as well as the Rotten Winged Sword Insignia for extra damage with consecutive hits, which we'll get from two-handing these weapons and hitting like, you know, those combos, as well as the Shard of Alexander to increase the damage of our Unsheath ability, and the Lord of Blood's Exaltation because of the inbuilt blood loss build up into the Nagakiba and the wakizashi. The last point in gear does neatly tie into the tips part of this video, which is using greases. Now, because we're using a Nagakiba that only has physical damage on it, we have the ability to add different effects to this weapon via greases, which you can either craft or just find throughout in the world, which if you're just playing the game and like collecting things, you'll have heaps of these anyway. Like I've got tons of these in my inventory that I have no idea where they came from. But anyway, you can craft these. So what these greases are, and the different kinds of greases, is that you can apply different status effects, say poison, lightning, fire, etc. Because it is just a straight physical weapon damage, you can apply these additional effects via the use of greases. Now, this will allow you to use and get some additional kind of benefits in boss fights or even tough encounters by applying effects that the enemy is weak to. Say, for example, with the Fire Giant, you're obviously not going to apply fire damage, but you could use something like Poison or Scarlet Rot to then apply that effect to the enemy, so then they get that build up and then take that consecutive damage over time effect, while you've still got that just inbuilt blood loss build up from the Nagakiba that you get as well, so you can trigger that status effect on top of it. So there's a lot of flexibility there into how you want to play around with that kit. If you are looking to min-max this sort of build and setup, you could probably put on, say, the white mask in your empty helm slot for that extra damage with having a blood loss effect in the area. As mentioned with these themed builds, like we did the Kratos and the Bloodborne one, these builds aren't supposed to be like min-maxed god tier builds. They're made to be a fun playstyle to change the way you play Elden Ring now that the game has been out for so long, to try different things. I considered including some sort of incantations into this build, you know, in a way that we're using Flame of the Redmanes for the Highland Axe, using those sort of flame spells or something like that, but I just don't really think it fits the kit really, and I wanted to make something that was really just focused on a similar sort of a samurai setup of just being, you know, using physical damage. You could also easily add a bow to this setup, like any bow that you could pick up, because of the way that we're scaling with dexterity and using some sort of different arrow types to also apply different status effects. I think there's a lot of additional flexibility that you could make out of this build outside of just really focusing on the Nagakiba and its value because of its better reach and overall solid damage, but definitely things that you could do in terms of that. Let me know what you guys think of this build. I want to start doing more builds as we get closer to whenever the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC comes out. Who knows when that'll be, but I wanted to start doing a couple more builds, and I probably will as we get closer to the launch of that as well. So let me guys know what you think down in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching this video till the end. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is Norza, and I hope you have a great day.